find my presentation and share the screen. I think will be okay. Tā, share screen, okay. Okay. I'm Ginta Elksne. I've been involved in the Latvian National Oral History Project since 1994, and my scientific interests are related with analysis of oral history sources with the graphical method, and last some years topics about migration. My colleague Ilze Koroļeva, she is also a sociologist, and she has a considerable and huge experience in various sociological studies, and especially in quantitative studies. And in the photo you can see a strange action. It was in March 2019, and with the slogan "Bring your expatriate shoes," Latvians are invited to come to the cabinet of the ministers. You can see in and leave the shoes of relatives who have left Latvia. Oh, hello, Ilze. Ilze is ready, and. We're invited to come to the cabinet of ministers and leave there the shoes of relatives who have left Latvia, emigrated for profit and for better living conditions. In this way, the organizers decided to show to the government how many people have left their homeland. As you see, action is there were not very huge number of shoes, and the campaign didn't become popular. A similar campaign took place simultaneously in Chișinău, Moldova, on February 2019, and it also didn't receive as much big support. But in Macedonia in 2016, there was very huge campaign. There were very huge number of people bringing the shoes of relatives to the cabinet of ministerium to show how much people are emigrated from the country. And probably Latvians are not very active to go together and express their demands, and maybe organizers too didn't inspire trust into our people either. And maybe that's a reason why this campaign was not so big and not so loud as it should have been. But it might have been loud when we imagine how large is the number of people who had left Latvia since the declaration of independence. I don't borrow you with the chart, it's just very short explanation. The most important thing in this chart is to see the trend. You see from 1990, the loss of population due to migration has always been greater than immigration. The large number you can see here left Latvia in 1993 after the restoration of independence, but there were both the military and their families left, and many people went to their post-Soviet independent countries, former USSR republics. But then you can see 2009, a new wave of immigration started, and it was following the economical crisis and the bad economic situation. Sorry. Yes, there is. Like a labāk, yeah. Latvia's low birth rate doesn't ensure a generation change, and it's further exacerbated by the economic migration of the working age population. And recent trends show that families more often decide to emigrate with children, and fewer families emigrate with their parents. Also, research shows that the connection with those staying in Latvia is still strong. This connection helps to maintain the Latvian identity abroad. However, the family is not just an economic resource or an emotional support. The family is one of the foundation's bases that allows us to carry on language, values, cultural traditions, and the breakdown of families can lead to the break in the biographies of both emigrants and of those who have remained. Our analysis draws on both the qualitative data, life story interviews collected in the Latvian National Oral History Archive, and we also applied quantitative data derived from 2 large web-based surveys of Latvian immigrants. And the life story method is important in the study in migration processes. It allows to approach the human experiences, how it reveals how the interviewees give the meaning to the important things, and how does the individual adapts to change. And life story approach gives voice to migrant himself, gives opportunity to express his own subjective interpretation of events. But what about qualitative data? It's great for, it's possible to obtain a large amount of standardized information of immigrants in different countries with a high degree of validity in a relatively short time. I counted that these 2 surveys together obtained something about 22,000 immigrants. As I hope I'm correct. And moreover, in sociology, we know this approach as triangulation method of cross-checking data from multiple sources. And as well, as topic of migration studies is revealed in the life stories, in interviews with people who live in Latvia, but whose children, grandchildren, relatives, and friends already live outside Latvia. And those during the interviews, we ask to pay attention if there is topic about relatives and friends in immigration, and on the way what they speak, what they think about the situation, and what they explain, and what is the reason probably for immigration, what is the point of view, advantages and disadvantages from this situation. And migration research is when analyzing modern forms and experiences of migration. They pay more and more attention to the impact of migration on an individual's subjective feelings, subjective well-being, which includes satisfaction with life in general and individual areas of life. And focusing on family experiences, researchers analyzes the stresses of migration in family relationship, emotional disturbances and threats to an individual's sense of belonging and ontological security. Researchers do point to the delicate balance between the economic benefits of migration and the emotional rewards most often identified with loss of contacts with children and family members, the loss of support networks, which clearly affect individual satisfaction and subjective well-being level. We speak about, we use the concept of belonging in context of migration research because it has a special role here. The sense of belonging to a group and place provides an ontological sense of security, and as name notes, it bears mostly positive connotation. If belonging is understood in the sense that helps an individual cope with the surrounding world, then it is inevitable that non-belonging can be characterized as a burden. And both life in Latvia and life in immigration can be seen as a source of belonging to something, to somewhere. But the process of forming a sense of belonging in immigration seems to be more complicated, often internally conflicting. A person who has left his homeland and moved to another country seeks for new objects of belonging, new feelings of belonging to both places and groups in the home countries. And he has this time to desire to remain unique and different from others. The migration literature points to a number of factors that can influence migrants' feelings of belonging, identity formation, and the formation of new yes, new identities. But in this process, the role of family is particularly emphasized, including the broadest sense of the term relationships and connections with children, parents, and the individual's own family members, family formation. Yes, and friends too. So here you can see the chart. Sorry, does this line is okay or? Okay, have you seen correctly? Okay, so it's a little bit about this chart. The strength of sense of belonging can vary. It can be strong or weak, firm or fragile, and this makes it possible to use quantitative measurements of its intensity too. Due to these aspects, the belonging approach is widely used in sociological research and is applied to this study as well. So we can see here. Okay, here's mine. Immigrants' answers shows that people feel a stronger sense of belonging to their closest social groups, family, friends, rather than social categories. For example, Latvia's whole and inhabitants of Europe in the host country. And yes, you can see that almost all respondents feel close to their family. The next strongest is the ethnic group. And as data shows, there has been almost no changes in this feeling of belonging over the 5 years when these 2 big surveys were done. So this family unit is not just a source of economic and emotional support. It allows us to maintain language, values, and cultural traditions. According to life story interviews with Latvian expatriates and their relatives at home, as well as qualitative research data, the relationships between family members play an important role in maintaining ties, preserving language and traditions, and upholding links to the homeland. As this excerpt from the interview shows, common values, common experience of oneself and other people play a big role in the life of the respondent. The Anda, for example, emphasized that, of course, she married for love, but deliberately wanted to connect her life with the Latvian. And you can see she talks about common luggage. Yes, it means probably Latvian, maybe also Russian language space, common experience with the education system, state and institutions, and certainly at least for the part of us who grew up in Soviet Union, they remember the cartoon character, the crocodile Gena. It means for us something, and like jokes and about legendary Soviet spy Stirlitz, as the film character, live in people's memories, jokes and anecdotes, and it's easy to communicate with people from your environment. And because some of things cannot be clearly explained to a person who was grown up in another culture. And especially this woman, she was from very, she came abroad from very poor living conditions. And she thought that it's very hard to explain to men from other culture how it was hard to survive in Latvia in 1990s. And yes, and here you can see the sense of belonging to 2 countries simultaneously is characterized in the following quotes. For example, Laura, who is living in Sweden since 2000, and she talks about 2 homes, about belonging to both Latvia and the new home country. And this shared sense of belonging makes, as she says, makes her stronger, gives her more opportunities. And it's worth to know to say that this feeling of 2 homes is revealed in several life story interviews, and precisely as a source of strengths rather than a problem. And however, other women indicate that, especially when living outside, she can start to understand what is valuable to her. And she first came to Sweden in 2000 to work as nanny for a friend's family. But later she returned to study at university and after graduating stayed in Sweden. And she emphasized that it's not about belonging to the state. Yes, we can remember from these answers that about this scale of belonging. It's not so about belonging country, about not even about the land, nature, Latvia's beautiful nature and so, but it is something about roots and identity. And of course, it would be subject of another study, but it can be added that the theme of the Latvian identity is much considered in the stories of Latvian immigrants, in this new wave immigrants too. Okay, there is a very quick view. According to the data of quantitative study, most of the recent immigrants, this so-called new immigrants, you can see approximately 93% have stayed or lived in Latvia with at least one. They have relatives or in Latvia at least one member. And more than half of the respondents, you see, there is direct family, yes, parents, father and mother. And the group of respondents who have spouse and children left in Latvia is relatively smaller, but it's a very important group too, because you see. So next one, maybe I will skip this frequency of communication, but you can see that data shows main tendencies about communication and visits to Latvia, depending on which family members live in Latvia. For example, if the whole family stayed in Latvia and communicate and travel many times often. If a part of the family or only respondent, only one lives abroad. And okay, satisfaction of this life. It's a very one chart about. On this chart, you can see that using longitudinal data, we have opportunity to look at how the satisfaction of individuals in different areas of life changes during 5 years, and in these two waves of these big surveys. And interesting that these data also indicate that family life is one of the most sensitive area in the connective migration research. Namely, satisfaction with family life goes through most significant change compared to different groups of respondents in general. So you can see here. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, transnational migrants and this transnational. Okay, this is return migrants. Yes, this blue one line. And in general, within 5 years, the satisfaction of those living outside Latvia increased in all spheres of life. And this cannot be said about a group of transnational migrants, yeah, especially this blue one. So-called liquid migrants, those who alternately live both in Latvia and abroad, and for whom part of the family often lives in one country and part in another. And perhaps this style of lifestyle is typical to this group of migrants, and it contributes to dissatisfaction with life in general, many aspects, including family life. But second and important, interesting conclusion is about this, about return migrants. They are most dissatisfied with almost all aspects of life, and especially with family life. And where nowadays immigrants respondents who were interviewed in 2014 as immigrants, and then in 2019 as immigrants. And probably this unsatisfaction was a catalyst for returning to Latvia. And yes, and also life story interview shows that the absence of family, parents, relatives in the host country, new home country, at least initially, seems to be a great loss. Both physical presence and emotional and practical support is very needed, especially in the first time. And this women emphasize that you have nothing, no parents, no relatives near you, no friends with whom you can get any support, and you have to try to yourself, no friends. Another says yes, he can envy his brother because mother lives nearby, and she can babysit with her grandson, the son of the brother, for at least one day. And other topic in life story interviews is about family as a resource for a way how to preserve language and culture for people living abroad. And of course, language is important for identity, but also to keep in touch with the family, to keep in touch in family is very important, especially with grandparents who often don't speak English or the language of the migrants' home country. You can see that the language is important not only for identity, but important for our grandmas, yes, because sometimes grandchildren don't speak Latvian, and it's very hard to communicate. This immigrants think that this need to communicate in Latvian is be very, very important. And other interesting topic is about this bond and the strength of family ties. That children abroad are very, very, very. They need to show their attention to their aging parents. They have this feeling they have to help them. They have feelings that they have lost them somewhere, probably without support. And actually, we don't have such an interviews no, but in the social networks, especially in Twitter and Facebook, this summer there were a lot of dramatical stories how people miss Latvia, how they want to change to visit their relatives, but it wasn't possible. There were very, very lot of stories like that. And yes, but this possibility to help grandparents and grandparents is very, very interesting. And because sometimes there is some research about that, and it will say in this interview too. The decision to migrate is often not dedicated by immigrants' own likes or dislikes. So it is often characterized by desire to support the family, for example, for children's education, for children's health, for better living standards, better living conditions for aging parents, or at least relieve their parents of worries, so that the parents feel good that their young family is in security and prosperity. And in the interviews, we often can see the topic about hard work in immigration, especially in the first time. There is topics about milking cows for city girl. It was very difficult to learn it about the hard agriculture work as well as living in difficult conditions in the beginning, about even lack of food for some time. But data from people who remain Latvian, whose family members have immigrated, also shows that parents and grandparents are supportive and understanding regarding children's choice to immigrate. In such situations, it's important to keep in touch. Keep in touch with via Skype, phone visits, conversations, and there is a topic about Ilita stories. And yes, she remembers that she immigrated as a child at the age of 8, and remembers that first she wrote letters to her father and grandmother because there was not even a telephone in the countryside. And anthropologist Dace Zenauska has studied the situation in Latvian countryside directly related to the depopulation of the countryside. And she also points out that those who stay in Latvia accept this decision to emigrate and don't deny the decision to relatives and neighbors, because it's an activity. They try to solve the situation, and it's better than do nothing. And yes, okay, and researching the sense of belonging to a family, there is other interesting trend. Some respondents point out that the connection with the family has remained the only one that connects to Latvia. And it is often associated with frustration in Latvia, loss of the job and difficulties in finding new one, problems in personal life, encountering prejudices in Latvia. And if there is a negative experience with above-mentioned things, then there is a possibility to identify with the beautiful nature and culture of Latvia, but not only. We can speak about this deeper sense of identity sometimes. Yes, and to the conclusions, data shows that Latvians who emigrated abroad after the restoration of Latvia's independence in general, they are aware of belonging to Latvia, to families, but these links with Latvia and with families and strengths of these links is different. We can say that time spent living abroad as well as the wave of immigration, for example, in 2009, it was a huge amount of people who immigrated because of this economical situation. It's very, very sad about this situation. It not was only this about happy life to go abroad, but time spent living abroad as well as various immigration, as well as social and family tastes play an important role in changes in sense of belonging, as these are associated with motivations for migration and motivation backdrop for living Latvia. And the family ties are important. Stronger family ties and the sense of belonging in general give better adaptation to the new environment too, as well as help to make a decision on return if such decision is made. And family ties are important not only to have a connection with Latvia and so the person may return. Their strength is also important for the person himself to be satisfied with his life, his or her life, gain a sense of self-fulfillment, and if so, build a successful life abroad. And mutual links perhaps give this sense of solidarity and security. Parents and relatives in Latvia have helped to maintain the sense of belonging to Latvia, as well as help to preserve the language for the next generation of migrants or grandchildren. And immigrant parents worry about wanting to give children a sense of stability and how they purchase technology or organize visits back home to facilitate the maintenance of ties. They serve this transnational relationship as a source of cultural capital, ensuring that children remain familiar with the language and cultural norms, and also value the emotional support children receive from friends and relatives left behind. And
Ginta, please, could you go
yes, okay.
Because time flies.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It was my last sentence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, I have a lot of interesting slides and I have to tell, but it's probably there will be some questions. No. Okay.
Yeah. So we have time for very quick questions at that time, because we are so late now. Is there someone who wants to ask? No?
Additional, yeah. Okay.
Please, who wants
I have
to?
a question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Video. Yeah, I wanted to ask Ginta about transnationals. Unreturned migrants. In one of slides was that they are quite unsatisfied with their family life.
Sorry, there was some big kaut kādi traucējumi. Es nedzirdēju sākumā. I didn't hear this beginning. Are you interested in one of these charts or?
Yeah.
Is this which one? Okay, perhaps Ilze is here and she can help better. Okay, this one.
Yeah, please.
Can you repeat your question?
Yes, I didn't hear you.
My microphone doesn't work properly. My question is, if from interviews you have some explanation why transnationals and returned migrants are so unhappy with their family life. For transnationals, I can guess, but I wonder if you have some explanation in interviews.
No, actually, I don't have so much interviews with these transnationals and the returnees at the moment.
Yeah, because for transnationals, I understand that it is very, we had some 15 and most of them are single, and it is really difficult to keep homes in those places or this
yes. And as
traveling.
yes, and because Ilze told us this gap, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Ilze probably.
In the quantitative data, we have the many evidence for that the family life is one of the sensitive, sensitive
topic,
topic aspect of life, and there is many reasons, but we found in the first time, and now that the family lives suffer from this way of life, from this transnational, as you know, they lived in one country and moved in another country, and return migrants, there is only their answers on 2014, as you see, yeah, and now we don't ask them, yeah, but we see that if they was unhappy with their family lives and they was unsatisfied with family lives, and this is one of reason maybe why they returned to Latvia too, because they have the relatives, they have parents here, they have maybe spouse and child, but no, of course we have the quantitative data because we have about 20,000 interviews, yeah, web interviews, and but this is a compilation of them, and we can talk about this in another maybe report and in other. Maybe we will analyze and will reflect it in our article what we are trying to prepare together with Ginta.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, colleagues, to be so unpolite that I have to stop this because we still have one presentation.
Okay, so how can I unshare? No share, but so stop share. Yes, okay.
Okay. Our last speaker is Agita Lūse. Are you ready there?
Yes, I'm ready. I have.
Okay, please, it's your turn.
Since I have two screens, I have to turn a little bit. So, yes, first, let me say that I will try to be as brief as possible, taking into account how late it is and what a long day we have had. So I will try to share my screen. A moment. Where is that button? Share screen here. Can you see?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, love it.
Good. So I will better do this. All right, let it be so. My title is on the screen. it's a bit specific in that we didn't hear many instances of mentioning orphans or adopted children, although we heard a lot about deportations, loss of homeland, loss of family networks, like in Ingrian case and in other cases too, of course. But these examples are all from Latvia. And yeah, I will refer to the funding. So these data and analysis has been enabled by 2 research projects. So one of whom I share with most of my Latvian colleagues here in the virtual room. Another is carried out at Riga Stradiņš University. So somehow the focus of my research has been shaped by both projects, both agendas, let's say, by questions advanced and addressed by my colleagues, oral historians and sociologists, as well as by my colleagues, social anthropologists, who have been studying this relationship between state and kinship. In the course of that latter project, I have been looking at efforts to compile genealogical charts and draw family trees, lineages, pedigree, also these DNA tests which have been become popular, and how people explain why they need that test and what they discovered in the course of letting test their own saliva or this stuff from the mouth. I have observed that these concepts and also discourses on kinship, family, heritage have somehow been burgeoning during the previous decade, mostly since early 2000s, as I have observed. Although there have been attempts, of course, earlier too, but we definitely know that in post-war Soviet Latvia, that was something we only discussed in kitchens, not publicly. The aim of this paper, as I already stated in my abstract, is to explore how growing up in an adoptive or foster family shapes the experience of memory transmission. And my theoretical framework I owe mostly to the authors mentioned here, Lambeck, Ance, Karsten. So most of them, Lambeck is known as medical anthropologist, but also has written a lot about memory in recent decades. And Karsten is a very outstanding anthropologist of kinship and relatedness. My 3 basic propositions come from these authors. Caring can be understood as a fundamental form of remembering, characteristic of an ethos of kinship. So remembering, as I understand, following these authors as a practice rather than as a mental activity only. Second, remembering is seen as a moral and intersubjective practice that oscillates between the stream of embodied experience and objectified narrative, to quote Lambeck. And third, human action in general can be considered as a kind of interpretation of one's predecessors' lives. So we are reading our predecessors' lives as a text, so that reminds us of famous Clifford Geertz's quote that anthropologists are reading text over the shoulders of their informants, of their peoples they study. So family stories and identity. I recently also came across a rather interesting paper, which I would also like to discuss at a later stage with my project colleagues at Oral History Archive. But for the time being, I only refer to the main design and main purpose of that paper. The authors are concerned that they have been able to find only very little research that examines the types of stories that are passed on to adolescents and emerging adults, and it's also unknown to what extent these stories are retained and accessible, so retained in memory or retained, I don't know, in some documents maybe, albums, photographs, video films, archives. But these stories are about identity formation, and family stories help shape identity. That very much resonates with what I can recall of my own growing up and my own identity formation. I was lucky to have a father who was a great storyteller. Even was very thrilled this autumn to discover that I can get a copy of his record from Latvia Museum of Occupation. I didn't know before that it's recorded in video format. Now I have got hold of that. So the accessibility and functions of intergenerational narratives. That's again from Merrill et al. Paper. They have been looking at functions that various intergenerational stories perform in adolescence and early adulthood. These are such types of stories as adolescence open-ended intergenerational stories, as stories of parents' transgressions and proud moments, which is interesting that it's really not just about this front stage where people shine when they tell about their accomplishments, but also about their moral failings and transgressions. And emerging adults intergenerational stories of parents' self-defining moments. So self-defining moments, of course, these are stories about some critical decisions, critical moments when person had to decide on which side to stand. Let's say, should he betray someone or something or not, and what the consequences would be. My argument is mostly that adoptees and people in fostering families have, in general, very few sources and very few intergenerational stories from which to draw to build their personal identity. And in the stories that I examined in interviews, I noticed that they make very strong effort to integrate into their own identities, their own life story, these very tiny bits, tiny fragments of family memories wherever there are such, and the knowledge of biological origins may be very scarce. Knowledge of social origins is undecided. So the data analyzed, so the basic data I have drawn upon when I wrote my abstract for this conference have been 7 life story interviews. So 2 of them were kindly referred to me by my colleagues Edmunds and Mara. So these come from National Oral History Archive, and those were recorded already quite some time ago, early 2000s. And 5 stories I have come across myself in different contexts with different research agendas, but yeah, quite crucial has been my research agenda for my PhD. When I started interviews in 2002 and interviewed some 40 people, mostly looking for those who were suffering from depression or mental distress in general at that time. And the people are from different age groups, but not very young. In general, I haven't got hold of stories or interviews from very young adoptees, but it's still in the progress, because one of my MSc students is writing a thesis on these younger adults who are orphans and have been transferred from family to family, from institution to institution. As you also have noticed in media, child might have had 8 different homes by his teenage years. So these storytellers I learned are between, let's say, their 60s and their 40s. I even don't mention here everyone. I just remembered today that I also wanted to mention this Lienī Sastule from our colleague Sanny Terenson's brilliantly written book on Latvian women who have lived in forests during the first years of Soviet occupation. So one of them also mentioned some kind of orphan experience, although she isn't a real orphan, but this situation is very much reminding orphanhood, because she says because of that time when the family had to disappear, they went into the forest, but part of the family were either repressed or deported to Siberia, and basically she grew up without her parents. She met her parents when she was already in her 30s, and found that they are almost strangers to her. But yeah, that's a specific story. But I very much felt that what Vida today morning was emphasizing that there is so much movement in our lives. There is so much uncertainty and instability, and in so many stories in the archive as well as other interviews, I come across these features of constant transformation, constant mobility, migration, of course. Other people also have experienced a lot of this mobility, of this undecidedness, this doubt about who I am, where do I belong, like Peters Pawlowicz was put into an orphanage. His mother was a Polish farmhand who couldn't cope with a small baby herself, so she gave him to a country woman just to look after for limited period while she was working. But at one moment she discovered that the baby was taken away to orphanage and she never met the baby again. But then Rasma is quite different story. She is so maybe Edmonds could tell me how many minutes I have. Who is the chair? Somebody please tell.
I am the chair, so you have now about 4 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I think I will manage. Rasma is an adopted child, but she remembers her foster parents very well, and she speaks with such a great warmth about her foster mother, her adoptive mother, and as I claimed, this remembrance is more about practice, not about just telling story. She emphasized that she has there is a kind of ritual. She goes with her friend to the cemetery on regular basis because her adoptive mother is very dear to her, and when they go to that cemetery with a friend, thereafter they go together, sit in the friend's kitchen, drink tea, and remember their loved ones. So Udis, I came across not long ago. He was brought up by mother, but didn't know anything about his father until 2 years ago. He had been to this American Latvian inspired movement 3x3 summer camp where 3 generations meet and also try to interact, and the older generation transfers their skills and their knowledge and their values to the younger generation. And he went there with his own family. He has the wife and 3 children. And there was some workshop during that 3x3 summer camp where the famous Latvian, how to say, nativist activist Ines Krūmiņa chaired a workshop on this family research, and he decided finally he has to find his father, and during these years, he has managed to establish a contact, find a father. He is not living in Latvia, he is in a neighboring country. I can't disclose details, but it's all very touching, and it's also more about the practice rather than just remembering, because this is a practice of trying to wave together like a braid, like girls make these braids, these people weave together these fragments of information to understand who they are. And now, where is my next slide? Story. Yeah, so this I will skip. Acts of care across generations, where adoptees are aware of past acts of care. Their practices inspired by these acts may extend a caring attitude across generations further on to the next one, even if they don't have their own children. Like Peter Spaulovich, who was an orphan and who never married. At the time of the interview, he was 66 years of age. He had adopted, well, not exactly adopted, he was officially a fostering parent of a neighbor's daughter, teenager whose parents had died. Another example is actually a friend of mine who has been married several times and has his real daughters and son, but also has adopted daughter also in Latvia. He's not from Latvia, he's exile Latvian, but no, there is an adoptee in Latvia too. Because yeah, this is maybe the case when this sense of orphanhood is not because person didn't have parents, but he did have parents, but because he lost a lot. He was taken to away from Latvia during Second World War as a very small child, and his personal life hasn't been easy. He's been divorced several times, and there's always some kind of some sense of loss. Yeah, maybe I am putting together too many different stories, but anyway, I wanted to emphasize that that of course embodied experience of early abandonment, whether it's abandonment by your biological parents or it's abandonment by some mistake, like taking away from caring auntie to an orphanage, whether it's abandonment of that a person, when the person lost his all the environment, school, his schoolmates, his friends, because there were deportations and he or she were just pulled out of their social milieu. And in sharing their recollections in the stories, these storytellers all convey the fragile balance between feelings, anxiety related to this abandonment, and on the other hand, efforts to formulate what they care for and what care they still feel to have received themselves, even if it's not their native family. So that's actually all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So please, now it's time for some questions or comments.
Thank you, Agita. Part of your paper could be put on the ending titles of our conference, Caring for Memories.
I didn't notice that, but now I will remember.
I think that your topic is quite sensitive. So it came to my mind if there is some kind of marks of trauma narratives in your research material, in your interviews. Is there something like that?
Yes, yeah, that's a very interesting question. Well, as I mentioned, for my PhD research, I purposefully was looking for people who had these traumatic experiences and as a result had identified themselves as suffering from depression. So part of these stories which I recorded back in 2002, 2003 are of course mostly about these traumas and how these people try to overcome these traumas. I did mention one of my let's say one of my peers. Also, I also interviewed one of my peers. Maybe yeah, at that time one of the youngest of my interviewees, and that was all about these difficulties. Very heavy, actually, very heavy interview. That's a young woman who only once from afar has seen her mother. She grew up in orphanage and was adopted about 7 years of age, and by some coincidence she learned about someone who was her mother, her biological mother, and that very tiny bit of memory is still with her, and she is struggling what to think about that, because that woman, her biological mother, just once came to the orphanage and brought her some kind of small, I don't remember, knitting, some knitted object, just once, and then she disappeared. And of course, with such memories, people might be struggling for decades. On the other hand, it's very interesting to compare, and I'm really thankful that Mara and Edmunds referred me to those interviews from archive. Petris Pavlovic, and there is one more man in his 70s, I don't remember now the name, who on the other hand, who don't speak about trauma. They don't expose signs of depression or let's say anxiety or loneliness. Actually, they are, on the contrary, they are somehow content with the lives that they have lived. They are full of vitality. They tell about different accomplishments, about episodes when they turned out to be the wittiest, the most clever, yeah, successful. Yeah, but on the other hand, even if they don't feel depressed or abandoned, like Petris has never founded a family of his own. And then the question is open whether that's good or bad, that he has got his own family and his own biological children. and if he had biological children, maybe he wouldn't have been such a great storyteller. Who knows?
Hey, thank you. Vera.
I think a lot depends on the age of adoption of the child, the circumstances in which the child is adopted, and also the cultural significance that's attached to adoption, because in Latvia it's certainly stigmatized to a certain extent. And I noticed that you used the word real, have real parents.
Maybe.
And as the parent of 2 adopted children, I can just recount to you my daughter's experience when at school she was asked, well, who is your, is she your real mother? And she came home crying, saying, how could they think that you're not real, mummy? You are real. So this word real is, I don't think fits the experience of many adopted children and adoptive parents. That, you know, I came across a poem a long time ago. I can only remember a couple of lines of it, from an adoptive mother who says to her child, you were born in my heart, not in my tummy. You were born in my heart. And I think that sums up the situation for the best, the most successful adoptions. Yes, that there may be a kind of submerged feeling of abandonment for some, even if they're adopted at birth. What was wrong with me? Why did my biological mother not want me? But for many children, including my 2, if the adoption is successful, those sorts of questions, I wanted Emma to be here, but she's had to go and pick Lily up from school. Those sorts of questions just sound strange, they don't arise. So I think that we bring a lot of cultural baggage in Latvia to all the issues around adoption. It's very different nowadays in countries like Norway and Sweden, where the distinction between biological and adopted children is much more blurred. So yeah.
Yeah, many thanks, Veda, indeed. I appreciate very much, because yeah, I think we could speak under 4 eyes for days on this topic. But here I wanted to say that, of course, if that word real parents slipped out of my mouth, that was somehow really
well, it slipped out, but it slipped out because it reflects the shared cultural attitudes
exactly
to adoption.
Yes.
You know, ones which, having gone through the experience of adoption, that I don't share.
Just next week there will be an event hosted by another project which I mentioned, relate.lv, where we invite stakeholders from different NGOs and from institutions, state institutions, and we will speak about this broader understanding of family and kinship. And recent discussions on media, social media about this notion of family in Latvia. It's astoundingly how to say, I even don't have a word how narrow-minded that looks, what some politicians say about what family is.
Hey, thank you for this very interesting discussion. Now I think it is time to thank all the speakers and presentations. It has been a wonderful session. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, Kirsi.